some of the specific cases you're seeing where people are running prototypes or are starting to try to use LLMs and generative AI to add business value to their products?
So I think that's the first one, and then I'll come back to a case study on a specific client project. So you're absolutely right. So people are saying that generative AI can do anything, right? So that's where I think we need to be a bit more careful. That's the hype taking over the reality. And one of the things that we have done is, if you take generative AI, and of course people are worried about hallucination and not being truthful, all of that, right? So, but if you actually break it down into where generative AI is good, there's essentially a spectrum of things where from least risk to high risk, right? So first, let's take summarization. So the generative AI tools can do summarization very well, right? So you have a large paper, large document, one document, it will summarize. So you have the source and you have the destination that you have computed. So you can verify it. So it's very safe. And even if you don't like the output, you can go tweak it. Even for multiple documents, doing the summary of multiple documents and a thing, so it'll do well, right? So summarization is the first thing. It does very well. And there's relatively very, very low risk in using any of that. And you'll see all of the tools coming up. The next one in that is people call deep retrieval. So you have all kinds of text information, social media information. You can use these generative models to extract much better. Worst case, I mean, you can go back, fall back on the previous technology, which was not good anyway, right? So it's not as good as this, right? So it's continuously improving. So that deep retrieval, you're not going to lose anything because it's not generating anything. It's just essentially picking up something that you already have safe, right? So use it. The third one gets into the transition. We call it transformation, generative transformation, where you have one language, you're converting from English to Spanish or Portuguese, right? So again, you don't know if you know only one language, you can still convert it back and see whether it comes back to the original language and the meaning is maintained, right? But there are two destinations that you can compare. Again, relatively safe. Then it gets into question answer, and it does give a better context than some of the chatbots and conversational agents that you had, right? So that's sort of less than the others in terms of safety. And then, of course, you finally have the full generation where you go into ChatGPT and ask, I will write an essay on spatial computing, right? So obviously it's going to write something. And if you're Richie and you know the industry, you'll say, oh, yeah, it didn't get that right. It got that right. Oh, that's cool. You can do that. But for someone who is a layperson who doesn't know, you just believe it, right? So that's the spectrum, right? So that's where good to keep in mind as you apply some of these. There's no harm in applying any of the earlier ones. It's sort of very good. Now, with the specific example, I'll focus more on the extreme end of creativity, right? So again, you can go and create novels. There's a whole host of things that are coming where people are essentially writing books and writing fiction. There's a whole genre of AI-generated books that we are going to see. But one thing that we did for our client, it was a pharma client, and what all these pharma companies need to do is when anyone complains about a particular drug, they have to take action on it and see what the adverse reaction of that drug is, and have to file a report that they have considered the drug, they have considered the patient and taken appropriate action, and the report gets filed to FDA, right? So that's regulatorily they have to do. And this is a routine job, but it has not been able to be automated before, right? So everyone will go, they spend typically 2 hours once they have sorted out all of those to actually go and write this report. It's literally a page kind of report and narrative, safety narrative as they call it. And now what we did, it was literally 6 weeks. So we started after the Christmas break, so January 15th, and by February we had it implemented. What we did was we took historically, they have been reporting this for at least a decade. We took that, and the paragraphs are very nicely structured because it's going to FDA, it's regulatory. One is around the adverse reaction, the other is around the drug, the other is around the patient behavior and the risk. So we trained the generative model on each of those pieces, put it together, and it is now spitting out narratives, which again, back to Richie's point, it is human mediated, right? So finally, the human is still looking at it, But now, instead of 2 hours, they just take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, correct it, send it. And the system is learning, so that time will reduce, but you're seeing a 90% improvement in the time. So that's the kind of thing that we have done literally in a few weeks. And we are doing some internal use cases as well, but this could be...
What I can share is, since we were working with artificial intelligence from 6 or 7 years ago, making chatbots for customers, and now with the recent announcement of ChatGPT, everybody's asking us to, how can I integrate ChatGPT in our current solution? No? On what user case I can apply? No? And we need to work, we are working with these customers, telling them, you can do it. It's something that you can do, but what you want to do, no? What you need, what you want to bring to your customers. No? And this is the phase or the thing that we are facing right now, trying to identify in what. No? And I want to put you 2 examples. One is a financial institution. They already have this chatbot giving answers to their customers, giving to them the statements, the balance, and things like that. And they say, I want to integrate with ChatGPT. What our recommendation is, well, you can put it there just to get some basic information to your customer. They want to know, how can I calculate the compound interest? Or how can I make calculations of financial ratios? You can ask that to ChatGPT, and they will give you how to do it. No, you can, in that way, you don't expose your information or customer information, and you have a better service to them. No, they have a window to go there, and also it's something that you can sell. If you sell to your clients, hey, you can go through ChatGPT using my chatbot, they will feel happy. No, you have to put limits, because you need to make something very well structured to avoid any risk, to make it in a safe way, to don't put in risk the information. This is something that we make with this customer. Another is a retail company. They also have a chatbot, and they say, well, how can I use it? And we say, well, you can put instead, you have people in the call center telling to the people, if you want to use your vacuum or change a filter, you have to do this, see this, follow the instruction, read the manual. You can put it in ChatGPT, and they can tell to the people, well, this is what you have to do now. You can make this kind of integration or interaction, taking advantage from something that is already in place. No? And another way, in another way, we collaborate with one of the largest private universities in Mexico, that is the Tec de Monterrey. And we work with them in some programs. And in one specific program that finished in the last month, they have a group of students, and they need to develop a platform to sell or to buy cars, the second-hand cars. And these guys, the students, create a platform using ChatGPT. They know about programming, but not too much. They can do it. They got algorithms to make calculation of the prices. They use another technology also to make the appointments, and they have a platform where you can sell your car or buy a car, make the appointment, go to try and test the car, and you can and the platform give you estimated price that you can start bidding, no? If it's good or not for you. And all this happen in weeks, no? And they are students. In the past, this is something that maybe one company can make, no? Ford or Chrysler, I don't know. But today, a group of students can do this in a platform.
I think as an organization right now, what we are focusing on is the enterprise use of AI. So we're just limiting that, our efforts on the enterprise side. So what it means is, one is within our organization, first of all, trying to use as the codex type of a model, where how I can even generate the code, like the programming efforts much more quickly, so that it increases the productivity of 500,000 programmers, for example, that we have in our company. I still remember when I first started writing in C or C++, and we had to write down every single line and just wait for it to get compiled and get the errors. Now you can use the prompt engineering, what you mentioned, to actually generate the codes. And also we're trying to see how we can convert the codes, for example, from one language to other. Right. So some of the migration efforts from the legacy part to the new part, it's becoming much more faster and expedited. So that is the internal point. We are also trying to create some of those use cases for our own internal organization, for example, for the marketing organizations. How can you smartly create the campaigns much more effective, much more faster for the finance work? How can you create those insights, for example, using the table to text type of a formation, or trying to create those insights using your financial statements?
And maybe just dig into both those. On the marketing side, that's primarily in terms of like generating copy that could be used. Do you train it on your marketing materials and use that to generate like email campaigns?
That is right. That is right. And also in terms of at the moment you start connecting marketing also to the conversational analytics, for example, based on some of the social media tweets, for example, that we put in. How are the emotions, for example, getting out? So now how do you capture more and more of the unstructured data, which is specific, for example, to your tweets or to your business campaigns, and then trying to capture the emotions of the people, how many positive emotions versus negative emotions, and not just limiting to that, but trying to create an insight and the reasons behind that geographically, because we are a global company. So it's not just an insight from one single location that will matter. So getting those insights, and then working with external customers, many of the interesting ones. One is for the CPG companies, we are working some of the use cases which are related to the FDA. I'm not talking more from the drug discovery or from the medical imaging or the clinical trials, but more, for example, even as simple as the FDA or the CPG companies who have to release a lot of documentation before the food, for example, gets on the shelves. So how do you expedite that particular exercise? How do you help with the underwriting from the insurance industry? Somebody who is on the road feeding the data, how can AI assist the underwriters to quickly decide whether that particular for example, case is worth approving faster or no? How do you help the utilities, the people on the ground to take a quick decision? Also from the cross-industry usage of how do you enable the customer service agents live when they are talking to the end users or the customers, capture the voice to text, and using that particular text to create that live insights where the agents are able to enhance the service or offer more services to the same customer while they're still talking. Those are the discussions that we are having.
Alan, especially when you were at Novartis, what were some of the use cases you were investigating there for generative AI?
Yeah, very good question. Not only Novartis, but all the pharma industry are looking for, how to improve their internal processes on that. And one thing that it's mind-blowing is automating our approval processes. We are a highly regulated industry, and to approve marketing material, for example, it's a nightmare. You need to pass through so many different areas, and imagine Novartis or even other big pharma. It's a big company, so it's really complicated to approve things internally. And definitely using generative AI, we can accelerate these approval processes, creating the right guidelines and also creating some educational programs where you can ask things internally and the machine will answer you, oh, you can do this or you can't do this, so go on this direction. So this is definitely something that all the pharma industries are looking for. They mentioned really well the drug discovery. So when we talk about a drug development, it takes from 8 to 15 years to develop a drug and put on the market. We're talking about $2 to $4 billion investment. We can now create molecules and put on a model and ask the model what's going to happen on a specific behavior, how the molecule will behave on that specific environment, and also accelerate clinical trials and find the right people to test that specific study. So that's definitely something that all the pharma industry is looking for. And there's a third one that we were touching. Is there any healthcare professional in the room? Any physician? Okay, great. No, great. for what I'm going to say. Of course, if I get sick now, I need someone to help me. So healthcare professionals, they don't prescribe based on evidence, on scientific evidence. That is something that all the pharma industry is looking at, and they don't prescribe based on evidence. So we can create tools, models, chatbots to help them on the diagnostic phase, guiding them and supporting them to prescribe based on evidence. So it will save a lot of lives. It will shorten patient journey. It will change the way we treat people nowadays. Anyone in the room struggle with the healthcare system in the US? So that's the answer. If we put that on the system, not the pharma industry itself, but the governments, payers, everybody needs to work on that together. But if we put a model like that, our life will be much easier and the healthcare will be much cheaper. I see an improvement in all steps of the software development life cycle, product life cycle itself. Not only when you start, writing a user story, and hopefully in the near future you will write a user story and the feature will be there soon. We're not there yet, I don't see. But before writing the user story, on the brainstorming sessions, on the identifying the right pain point that you're gonna, solve with that software. So that's something that I see a lot of value right now. So it's really advanced how we can create brainstorm sessions and get great answers from the tools. And QA, of course, QA is something that can be expedited a lot with artificial intelligence, generative AI.
Since we are working on it for several years, we have a strong practice, and people who, through the years, they got experience working with real cases with customers. And we have something that we call Innovation Center. And in the Innovation Center, we used to try or to test new technologies. On those days, we started working with Watson. Now we are working with BART, with the Microsoft solution also, and we experiment. We are trying to do that. In that way, our people learn in the past. No? Today, we are taking advantage of all that learning, no? And we develop methodologies to use the technology also. We put focus in the technology, and what we said to the customers is, you put focus on your business, not in the technology, because the technology is changing all the time. Give us that task to us. You have to put focus on the business, and we can help you to bring this to a reality, to something that can be materialized and used in a practical way. We also collaborate with the universities, as that I said before, and we identify people. It's a way that you can see who is making it in the right way. You can take these people in the beginning, put it into your organization, and develop it. No? And it's the way that we work with the people, no? How we can get the resources and we can improve our current experience and methodologies.
How are you building personal competence with generative AI models? And then are there any resources or suggestions you'd have for other people to maybe go a little deeper down the rabbit hole?
So yeah, very much what you said, right? So at the first level, it is just giving the prompts and doing both BARD and ChatGPT. And also I use a third one called perplexity.ai. So if you have not used it, that may be something worth noticing. And the reason I use perplexity.ai is that gives the source. So I'll ask BARD or ChatGPT, but then I'll go back and ask for authoritative source on certain subjects, and it'll give me that. So that's at the surface level. But then as you said, the industry is moving so fast. There are things like Substack and Medium, which basically almost for every hour, there'll be a few articles that come up on this topic. And I often download the thing or play around with it, right? So with my own GitHub space, just to experiment with it, right? So yeah, and also there's a whole host of generative tools that are coming up, right? So in fact, there's a list of the top, I think 200 or 300 AI generative tools that someone has just released. So there are all these lists, and whether it is for completely writing a deck or even creating your own website. I don't know how many of you have seen. You can just say, hey, what type of website I want to create? Is it a personal one? Is it a marketplace? Is it a magazine? And give some parameters. It'll ask you a few questions, and within literally a few seconds, right? So 60 seconds, 1 minute, you've got a complete website. Then you can go and just upload your respective documents. The structure is there, everything is there. So there are all of these tools that are coming up, and just playing around with that helps. To the second question around what are some of the courses, I would sort of highly recommend Andrew Nigg is a Stanford professor. He very much works in this area. He's also the deep learning person. Deeplearning.ai is his thing. And they've released, I think, 4 or 5 videos on generative AI, how to use LLM. Again, very much from a base level, you can see it, understand it, right? So that's something that I'll recommend. Now, I've started seeing Google has got another half a dozen of these videos. So those are very good to get you started. All of the vendors, right? So Udacity, Udemy, all of the sort of the regular education tutorial ones have versions of generative AI. Now, I've started seeing from universities as well, generative AI courses. There are single courses now, not really a program, but you're seeing more and more of those, right? So a number of universities have done.
Well, since the boom of ChatGPT, you will find a lot of information about it, about the artificial intelligence generative. In the last couple of months, IBM, Google, the big tech companies make a lot of announcements. You will find in the LinkedIn or another space, you will find the main speech regarding all around the artificial intelligence, the next steps, what are they going to do in the future, and some recommendation. I share with you. You can go through that videos, look at it, learn from it, and also you will find a lot of solutions. Test it, try it. Is a way to learn is to touch something. No? I test one human resources solution that can give you some ways to create processes, to define job roles. Maybe you spend a month trying to develop a process to spend reimbursement. No? You can ask this to this kind of solution, and it gives you in seconds. No? Maybe it's not perfect, but it's a very good guide. No? You can complement it or change it at the end. No? You can find a lot of resources in the web. No? Just to look at it, and don't avoid to use it. No? I see that everybody use ChatGPT, no? But it's something that I push the people to use. No? Try it.
These courses, they are launched so fast. I don't think MIT did it. It might be ChatGPT. They put there, create a course, 5 classes, etc. So, kidding. One thing that I would add to everything that everybody already said is a great way to explore is not only going into all these tools and start testing them. Try to use Google Chrome plugins. So everything you will be, close to you. You just press a button. And a great experience I had was with Grammarly. So when you're writing emails, etc., improve my email or change the tone of my email. So it's a great way to start playing and seeing the results.